Hey, what's going on, guys? I want to talk to you guys a little bit about some jig fishing. And as you can see, I am a jig fanatic. This is just one of the two boxes that I have of jigs, ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to show you guys just a few different styles of jigs that I really like. Let's talk about small jigs first. So this is going to be one of my go-tos in a really finessey situation. And you can see that this jig doesn't have a lot of strands. It's got a huge head on it. It's a 1/2 ounce head and a little small hook. I'm going to explain to you kind of in another episode here how we match trailers up and things like that. But this is the particular jig. This is a Dirk's jig made here, right here in Missouri. So you can check those out. The next, as we step up, is a jackbaits. This is a finesse jig. This is the DKP Finesse Jig, Pow-R Finesse Jig here. So we have a 7/16 ounce head, and it's got a flat spot on the head. Let's see if you can see that or not. But it makes it easy for it to skip, but it also will stand up on the bottom just like that. So it puts it in that really good defensive position. So this jig here, you can see it's a small compact profile. You can also pull some of these strands out as well. I would recommend actually cutting them out rather than pulling them out, but cutting them out, making this jig, thinning up the skirt a little bit if you get into those situations. But this is a jig that I use all year round, but specifically during cold weather as well. But it's got a big hook in it, so you don't have to downsize your line so much, especially if you're fishing a little off-colored water, which we have a lot of here in the Ozarks right now. I'm going to go to a little bit different color than obviously our black and blue. We got a Night Stalker blue here, which is a really good color in dirty water. But really one of the things that you can do, even with this jig here, is just mix and match your trailers. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but mix and match your trailers and just put a little bit darker trailer on that particular bait. So stepping up from there, the next thing I'm going to be throwing, depending on where we're at and kind of time of the year, but it's going to be a football jig. So what I like to do with this football jig is, especially in the wintertime, what I'll do is I'll cut the, peel this up and get just the top layer of skirt there, and then cut that down so it's a finesse, more of a finesse style football jig. Another jig that I really like throwing is our DoKK RoKK, and that's kind of our staple here at Jackbaits. But this is a jig that you're going to use and can use pretty much all year round. My preference is a 1/2 ounce. I know a lot of guys, we do a lot of 3/8 and that sort of thing, but I like the 1/2 ounce because I can control the rate of the fall with my trailer, depending on what I want this bait to do. But this is a DoKK RoKK. It's got the Arky style head on it, so it's made to skip really, really well. It's got that flat profile on the back so you can skip it, but you can also fish this jig out a little deeper too. It's got kind of that same sort of football head shape where it's going to rock through those rocks pretty easily. So that's another jig. And then as we talk about either structure fishing or just getting out a little deeper, I'm going to reach for my KraKKen Structure Jig. And the reason I like this one is because it has more of a bullet style head here, and it allows you to really maneuver through cover, whether that covers rock or wood or whatever it is. You can see the style ahead here is pointed, so it'll slide through brush, slide through wood, flipping, lay downs, things like that. So that's a really universal jig. You can fish it out deep. This particular one is a 3/4 ounce. We make this all the way up to a 1 ounce actually, so 1/2, 3/4, and 1 ounce. So it really allows you to be very versatile. As you can see also, this jig will skip very easily. So that's really something that I really like to do, is skip a jig. So whatever jig I'm throwing, typically it's going to be something that it has some skipping ability to it. So I just want to kind of go over each of those styles of jigs that we have that I like throwing, and you can apply this to any sort of brand that you like. It doesn't absolutely have to be a Jackbaits. We'd love to earn your business if we can. But as you see, there's tons of different varieties out there and different options for you as the fisherman to figure out what really fits your style. So, that first jig I showed you, that Dirk's jig, I think that's good. in the wintertime all the way up until, throughout the summer even, when that bite gets a little bit more finicky. This is an all-around jig, again, from the wintertime all the way through. I don't know that I'm going to throw this out deep in the summertime, but if I'm flipping around boat docks, things like that, and you get one of them high pressure days, or when you know that there's been a lot of pressure on the water, that's a go-to jig of mine, because there's not a lot of people that are throwing that jig. This is what I was talking about. Actually, I just seen this one, but this is what I was talking about making that football jig more finesse. And I'm going to do that in the wintertime when, I feel like they need to have a little bit smaller profile to be able to catch them. And maybe when there's a little bit more pressure on the water, I'm going to trim that skirt. And you can trim any skirt you want, no matter if it's on that KraKKen, that big jig, or on a DoKK RoKK. You can trim those up so that you're really matching the profile of what you're looking for. So if you think, a crawdad's that big, but only that, that tall, then maybe we want to downsize. But if you are seeing them bigger crawfish, then maybe we want to upsize and get a big trailer in there and really, kind of match the hatch that away. So, that DoKK RoKK and the football jig, those are going to be the DoKK RoKK. I kind of start throwing whenever it's about spawn time, when they start spawning out there, that I can flip it around boat docks, skip it up underneath walkways, things like that. And then that football jig really shines in the summertime when they get out deep on the ledges, on structure points, things like that, where you can really just drag this football jig around. And that's what this jig is designed for. I believe it was kind of started here in the Ozarks for all of our rocky reservoirs that we have. But you can see that jig is really set up to roll through those rocks, and you can see it will bounce back and forth. So as it's hitting a rock, it's just kind of shimmying across those rocks. So that's really the benefit of that one. And then the KraKKen, I'm going to throw that one pretty much in the summertime when those fish are deep and I want a bigger profile and something where I can lift that jig up off the bottom and be able to trigger a reaction strike out of them. So that's kind of where I'm at with jig fishing. We'll talk about in the next episode a little bit about trailers, and then maybe we'll talk about line setup, rods and reels, things like that. So mixed in with that. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned, and we'll bring you some more good content here before too long. So thanks for watching. We'll see you later.